Hi, this is Ashley Swartz, founder of Furious Minds. I'm here for Beat TV at DMEXCO in Cologne. I'm here with Shirlene Chandrapal, the VP of Product for Connected TV and Video Advertising at Smartclip, that has some really exciting things going on. They're a leader in this space in video and connected television advertising, and we're going to talk to her today about sort of what's happening in Europe and what's different. So Charlene, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure. Could you tell me a little bit about where the market is right now as far as connected TV advertising and what you've seen last year versus this year?
So this year has been a real tipping point for connected television. This time last year we were very much in market, evangelizing, really telling the story about connected TV and how we saw connected TV changing the future of television. This year there is so much interest. We are sold out in terms of connected TV inventory in a number of our markets until the end of the year. And brands are really beginning to see the value of combining television with the efficiency of the web. So it really is beginning to change.
I know you have a partnership with an OEM in particular. Could you talk a little bit about that and what that relationship is and what it involves?
Sure. So we partnered with LG earlier this year. I think the announcement was released around July. We are their exclusive sales house across 14 different countries, so Europe, Australia, and also Russia. We are responsible for monetizing all of their real estate. That also extends into monetizing their third-party content publisher relationships as well. So that deal has just gone live. I'm very happy to say that, again, in a number of markets we're sold out. There's been tremendous interest. Here at the show, we're heavily showcasing LG. LG are also here. We have a number of the Smart TV representatives here from Korea, and a lot of interest from a lot of the big brands and agencies.
Congratulations, first and foremost. Are you working with any other OEMs?
We are talking to all OEMs. I mean, we've been selling and serving ads on connected TV since 2009, so that's gaming consoles, smart TVs, so Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic, Philips, Sharp, Loewe, all of those guys, mainly through their third-party content application providers. This year, a lot of the OEMs are looking to monetize their real estate. There's a hell of a lot of traffic as users come into the smart TV hubs or into a gaming console and navigate through into additional content. So yes, we're talking to a number of publishers and OEMs, and we should have a couple more announcements that we can share later this year.
Could you share some data and statistics in regards to the growth of both connected televisions in the markets in which you're serving, as well as then the connect rates year over year and what you've seen?
So connected rates actually vary significantly by market, and there's a number of different factors that influence that. The main one being content. The markets where there's significant content, where brands have invested in building out content for the platforms, has resulted in actually very high usage. So if you look at markets like the UK or Germany, there's very heavy usage on BBC iPlayer. Connection rates on a LG television typically about 60%. In other markets where the content isn't as prolific, the usage is much lower. So if you look at markets like Italy, you're probably looking closer to 35% in terms of connection rates. One thing that we see, and we have a number of content publishers who are on multiple different platforms. So they have a PC proposition, they might have a mobile or tablet proposition, and also a connected TV. If you look at like-for-like usage or dwell time, the usage on connected TV for a lot of these publishers is much, much higher. We really have to frequency cap connected TV campaigns because of the level of pages that they typically generate. I think that's also verified. I think the BBC iPlayer Love Film have also said that they see the usage of a connected TV user against a PC user is probably 5 to 10 times as much. It's a very high usage.
So we were talking just before the camera went on about the fact that when you sort of took this to market, started out with connected TV, and it was just a forced screen, right? And now you really have brands and their agencies asking for connected TV inventory. So I would love, we also discussed who's buying and what they're buying, right? Could you talk a little bit about the agencies with whom you're working in Europe specifically? Are they the TV or the digital agency that's buying? And then also, I would love to understand how they're buying geographically. Are they buying pan-Europe? Do you have sort of multi-country deals, or do you really see it market by market that the media planning is executed for video?
So Smartclip are in 24 offices across 20 countries. So absolutely, we talk to international agencies and the international teams that buy across multiple different markets. That part of our revenue probably accounts for about 10 to 15% in this space. Most of it is local. The conversations that we're now beginning to have really cut across all of the different devices. So the conversation is really focused on how we reach these types of consumers regardless of the device. What we're finding with connected TV is that with some advertisers in particular, and more what I would call typical traditional TV advertisers, there is a lot more interest in, well, how do I get onto these connected TVs? How do I take video from being more interactive? How do I move that to the next level of efficiency? So there's been a lot of interest in that particular, coming out of those particular agencies. In addition to that, we're also seeing TV buyers shifting budgets into this area because if it sort of sits somewhere in the middle. It's still TV. It's the same device that people ultimately view traditional TV on, but it's also digital. So we have half of our budgets coming from traditional TV agencies and the other half actually coming from digital agencies, and a lot more interest from traditional TV agencies. A lot of what I do in terms of the road shows or the evangelizing, I'll go into an agency and I'll have both teams there. And I'll let them duke it out.
And duke it out, they usually do. The fact that you get them in the same room, I think, is an incredible accomplishment. So you should have been a dignitary, perhaps not in advertising. So the last thing I just wanted to talk about is if you can give me some insight in regard to the investment on the content side. So the first question is, from a creative perspective, the corollary exists that the bigger the screen, the longer the average duration of video content that is consumed, right? So on the actual inventory sell-through, are you seeing 30-second pre-roll? Like, what's selling? Is it just derivative content from their TV spots repurposed? I'm very curious about that. Or are they creating bespoke creative for this medium? And the last question is, are they investing in experiences and building out applications or destinations within the OEM environment so that there's a place to actually click through to and go for the brand?
So it's still very early days, and I think that's something to be mindful of. Here we have an example with Honda that actually showcases a QR code, and they have specifically built this so that you can engage with your mobile, get more information, but then click on that and get into, either you can click through to video or click through to browser. So there are specific creatives that are being now designed for connected TV in this particular experience. Europe is slightly different to the US in that typically in the US you'd always have a 15-second or a 30-second pre-roll, but here in Europe we have always had advertisers who have built video more for the digital screens. So they range from being 12 seconds to 28 seconds, 22 seconds. So it's slightly different, and that lends itself very well for the type of content that's currently on these screens, although that's changing. With some of, if you have a banner through to video, you could have a 6-minute trailer, right? Because if the user says, I want to get more information, there's no limit on the video. Pre-roll typically, isn't more than 30 seconds, especially in short form content.
So I think that's my observation which is quite interesting, is that I think video is still sort of in a slightly more nascent stage maybe than in the US as far as investment. The share shift isn't as far along, but it's coming. And lastly, what I'm hearing is that perhaps as a result of it being a little bit slower on the uptick as far as investment for brands, that they are investing the creative resources as well to deliver the best experience on the mediums.
Well, I think they're still figuring it out in terms of what works best. I think in terms of actual content that you see on connected TV, it's a bit like the early days of mobile and web, when people would just take whatever content they had and just make a connected TV version of it. And that isn't necessarily the right way to go. It really is about thinking about what makes sense for TV. It needs to be more lean back. You need to have autoplay. Search and recommendation needs to be really thought through. It really is a different experience. We now see some content publishers beginning to build version 2 or even version 3 of their connected TV apps, which are far more advanced. They really factor much more high impact imagery, much more video. And now that really is driving usage. Advertising is just part of that equation. It really is about the availability of where we can insert the ads. I also think at this stage, all of the key players within the ecosystem need to think about what formats make sense for the new world of television. I mean, LG have started off by introducing IAB banners and video on the television. The user doesn't realize it's an IAB standard because a 7:8 by 90 on a 47-inch screen is 2 foot wide, and you know it's highly prominent. But it really, the next step has to be getting together with all of the other OEMs and looking at what formats can we standardize across these platforms. What's the interactivity that we can build in? What I'm really excited about is building the kinetics, the voice recognition, and all of that. We've seen some great prototypes of ads on, you know, when we go to some of these demos, where you can talk to the advert, more information, or you can use gesture control to stop a car or to spin it around or to lift the bonnet. And that stuff over the next 2 to 3 years is really going to start to evolve. We're doing, you know, we can serve 3D ads on these TVs because all of the LG TVs are 3D TVs as well. So this is just the beginning, and the next 2 to 3 years are going to be absolutely fascinating because, you know, we can see some of the prototype stuff that people are building out. LG, you know, we're working with them on 2014 platforms, you know, our wish list, what we think the advertising world will want to see. And we get a lot of input from the advertising community.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you for joining us. It's always wonderful to talk to a hell of a smart woman in this space, so I'm very grateful for your time. And I respect and admire the long hauls to Korea, having done that on many occasions. So watch out for these guys in Europe. And if you're in the US and you're an advertiser and you actually want to get on connected televisions, Smartclip's definitely a place to give a call. Thanks.